Plan ahead with FlexCare Health Insurance.
With Jaclyn Whittal. She's going to take you through the rest of the morning and talk about those big weather stories. And still some warnings today, Jaclyn, but wasn't as bad as yesterday.
No, definitely. I think the pattern is relaxing. You know, it's still going to be an active weather day, but it's a little better. I just want to say kind of a funny story today.
Okay.
Nicole and I showed up in the exact same blouse, didn't we?
We did.
So I had to change, but we still match.
Still match in color, but your blouse literally was the same as mine.
Blouse, yeah.
Well, speaking of colors, we've got the extreme cold warning in northern Quebec. We have snowfall warning in New Brunswick. Snow squalls still ongoing in Ontario.
That's right.
And colors again.
Here we go.
Take you to the purples on Saturday. Still in the prairies, the deep freeze, Jaclyn, but we're going to see warmer temperatures, especially St. John's getting up to 3 degrees tomorrow, and even southern Ontario warmer.
And, you know, I think it was Charlottetown that one of our meteorologists behind the scenes said they're going to go up from like -10 to +2 back to -12 in about 12 to 24 hours. So,
wow. So
roller coaster ride.
Yeah, so it's not always good when you get that warm because we're going to have rain in Nova Scotia after snow and then back to snow. It's going to be some slick roads.
And it's basically ice crystals suspended in the air that are reflected off the sun. Beautiful.
Right.
By the way, speaking of interesting driving conditions, boy, Mark Robinson's had a trip out west so far. Some of these roads have been awful. He's had trees collapse in front of him. In addition to the wind, we'll talk to him coming up this hour as well. But look at those winds. Yeah, 70 northwesterly yesterday, and now all of this pushing through much of Manitoba for the day.
Exactly, but easing, relaxing in Saskatchewan and for Alberta overnight. Winds aren't too bad. Your next system is snow through the weekend, and the winds in Ontario blowing all that snow around. Not much fell in the Greater Toronto region, but gusts up to 61 kilometers an hour.
Maybe skiing. I-90, there's some closures south of Buffalo. Some of those areas expected to get 60 to 90 centimeters of snow. But get this, Watertown, which is, of course, on the other side of Lake Ontario, 100 centimeters on tap potentially.
I know. So good for skiing weather stateside, but I wouldn't want to travel there if I were you. Through the afternoon, we're going to see those northwesterly winds along the shores of Georgian Bay and Lake Huron, but still have a bit of a southwest flow this morning towards Kingston. And then the winds do start to ease.
Naples, I know you're not watching the show. Thank goodness they are. Maybe they turn around and come home. All right, so some of the stories that we're talking about coming up on the show with me, warnings in place east to west, of course, snowfall, past, present, and future.
Yes, Jaclyn will take you through that. And temperatures trending milder right into the weekend. That is certainly the good news. And by next week, Calgary, your daytime high is going to be -1 on Tuesday. So a huge improvement after not only snow this weekend, but cold temperatures. Stay with us. Jaclyn will join you next.
Radar, and now you are seeing it in your front yard and on your driveway and you're shoveling. And could we see more of that? Yes, we could. We have a complicated storm that's going to move in the east coast next. It's the same clipper that brought a little bit of snowfall through to Ontario today. And a little bit, I mean by system snow. The squalls, much greater snow amounts. In fact, thanks to my brother who just said he got, up to about 24 inches. So, I don't know, 60, is that about 60 centimeters? Yeah, 60 centimeters of snow up in Bracebridge, Ontario. Due to the squalls will be meandering today. Milder conditions out west. By the way, we'll have a look at what you can expect next week. That's coming up this hour as well in terms of our pattern. Frigid right now. And here's the temperatures. If you live in Regina, Saskatoon, anywhere in southern Sask and southern Manitoba, it's still going to be cold. But relatively speaking, warmer than what you saw over the last 2 weeks. So take the good and the bad, right? In terms of snowfall, it's pretty quiet out west through the prairies. We do have some watches and warnings. I know it's kind of small to see, but blizzard warnings up through the extreme north of Manitoba, extreme cold in the purple, and then we have the blowing snow advisories on the eastern parts of Labrador, wind warnings in the better part of Newfoundland. That's because the next storm will bring some snow, but make that snow, blowing and drifting all over the place. And that was really the story yesterday for the prairies as well. Here we go. Fog advisories. We have kind of a stagnant air mass. It's a warm air mass, hence the temperatures. I know Calgary's not all that warm this morning. Good morning to you, but you will be warming up. Yesterday you topped out at about -2. So that fog is just kind of locked in. It's what we call an inversion. Where the surface is cold and then we have a warmer air above. So it kind of traps the air. You get a cloud at the surface, you get fog. Let's take a look here at the extreme cold warnings. In Edmonton, we're still looking at temperatures feeling above that -30 to -35 degree mark. Grand Prairie, 10 to 15 centimeters. That's some upsloping. So we have an Arctic high and we have clockwise motion around that high. That's going to pile up those winds against the Rockies and bring in some snowfall. So that's how much you could see. -35 in Swift Current. And good morning to you in Saskatoon. Let's go to my home hometown. I grew up in Amherstburg, but this is Windsor, and it's not very common that we see a good round of snow down there, and we got it. It's courtesy of this area of low pressure. It's an Alberta clipper that's racing through. While it does, it's going to have many wind shifts, and as a result, we're going to get some snow squalls. We'll come back with those details. But by the way, who misses golf season? I'm not much of a golfer, but I do. Deb had the chance to do it in Arizona. Happy Friday and happy shoveling. Many people will be doing that over the weekend. We'll talk about who. And I'm meteorologist Jaclyn Whittal. Nice to have you along. And if you have plans this weekend, well, it's going to be a little bit warmer, especially out west. In fact, let's get into that part of the story right now. We are seeing a little bit of fog, and all that means is warmer air moving in. There's a ridge, a high-pressure ridge moving in, bringing in warmer air off the Pacific. Cold air, though, still at the surface because of all the snow you've seen in the interior and just generally cold temperatures as of late, kind of a stagnant air mass, so that fog is going to persist for much of the coastal regions probably this morning before it mixes out, but it's having trouble doing that. See these snowflakes that are picked up on the model here in the eastern side of the Rockies? That's by Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening. That's what we call upsloping, so high pressure to the northwest. And we have clockwise motion around our winds. It's going to pile up that air against the Rockies and get some snow. So there's really no system to speak of. Here's the temperatures. Good morning, Grand Prairie. Minus 19 for you in Calgary. Grand Prairie minus 26. Edmonton minus 26. It's cold, but it is going to be a little bit better until we get back into a colder pattern. So a little better. Not great, but a little better. Minus 2 yesterday in Calgary, by the way. So that's better. Grand Prairie 10 to 15 centimeters for you. Edmonton, you're out of the snow. It's all going to be against those Rockies. Calgary, 2 to 5 centimeters for you. Okay, let's take you east. Thanks for sending that in. I totally remember the winds doing that. I lived in Regina for a year. I know I talk about it all the time, but until you've lived out in the prairies, you don't realize, just because of how flat it is, how those winds whistle against the roadways like that. You don't have to have any snow. It just takes the snow that's there and blows it around. So here's some of those winds out of the northwest. We forecasted those winds to be pretty strong and almost getting up to about 80 for Regina. Still seeing some strong winds, although a little less strong throughout Manitoba today, and tapering off for you in the prairies. There's that Arctic high that starts to build in, and you can see what it does to the temperatures. Minus 33 for you in Saskatoon. Good morning. Minus 26 is your core temperature. Up toward the north in La Ronge, minus 21. There's the high pressure. There's the upsloping. There's a developing storm that's going to track sort of through the U.S. plains, and then it's going to take a track toward the Great Lakes, and we're actually watching a potential storm for the beginning part of next week. Dr. Doug and I, of course, will break that down in the Long Ranger. Models didn't really know what to do with it the last few days. It starts to show signs that they might be handling it a little better now. Regina, minus 18. Saturday, minus 17 for your Sunday. Back to work for many on Monday, of course, and it'll be 7 degrees in Vancouver. Back to seasonal temperatures. Squalls, a lot of this was system snow. It's kind of hard to differentiate where the snow's coming from when we have a clipper moving through with wide open lakes. And another tricky part of this forecast is that we have winds. If you think of this low moving in, we've got counterclockwise winds. We've got the southwest wind over 2 Great Lakes that are wide open. That's going to pump in a bunch of snow down south of the border. But even you, Kingston, we're not going to rule out the chance that you could get some really heavy snow amounts. 5 to 15, generally speaking, could be more. And then you go over to Lake Huron, and because the storm is passing, winds are actually already northwesterly. So we've got winds doing this and winds doing this over the Great Lakes. Makes for a mess. Up in Parry Sound, you just saw, some heavy snow on tap for you, maybe 15, 20 centimeters. My brother, who lives in Vancouver, just tweeted me or texted me, I guess he did. 60 centimeters has fallen there in the last, few days. So a lot of snow, and there you go. See the bands going this way and this way. That's what I mean. Kind of a neat setup. Superior, you're going to be generating some squalls as well into Saturday evening. And then the East Coast, it's all about the storm for you. We're going to come back with those details shortly. Good morning. Nice to have you along on this Friday. Who's excited for the weekend? I am. And what about the weather? How is that shaping up for your weekend? We'll have those details. Here are some of the 3 top stories that we're tracking. Warnings in place from east to west, although it's a little, calmer. There's still lots of them in place. We'll show you that. Snowfall, past, present, and the future. Yes, and the temperature trending milder. Woohoo! That's cue the fist pump, right? You're pretty excited about that? Yeah. I am. Prairies, you're still going to be taking your minus teens and almost doubling them with your wind chills, but it will be better. Now, Ontario, you'll get into minus single digits, and that'll be better, too, than what you've seen the last few days. Still have those extreme cold warnings in place, the purples, and then you can see blowing snow advisories through Labrador, eastern parts, and then the wind warning for St. John. That's really where our focus is today. In the winds, There's the radar. Wow, is this ever delivering? Kudos to our forecasters who really talked about these bands off Lake Erie, Lake Ontario, moving into that eastern Ontario region, Brockville, Kingston, and then now they're kind of shifting down toward the south, so Waterton in New York, expecting 100 centimeters potentially with these squalls. Squalls up north coming out of the westerly direction. My brother said he lives in Bracebridge. They got about 60 centimeters. I'd love to hear from all of you on Twitter if you want to give me an update. Parry Sound, good morning to you. You do have a snow squall warning in place. Everywhere else in the White, Barrie, Grand Bend, Mount Forest, it's a watch today, but you will see some flurries on and off. Parry Sound, 15 to 30 centimeters through Saturday. So if you've already got that 50, 60 centimeters for a lot of places in cottage country, get used to it. Don't put the snowblower away too far in the shed because you're going to need it again. -8, good morning, Trois-Rivières. -6 in Montreal. We're going to come and talk about steam devils today on the show, so make sure you stay with us. It's going to be kind of interesting in how that happens over the Great Lakes. Some incredible photos on Twitter the last few days. One thing you need, really cold air in place and the open water, and we have both of those ingredients. Here's the temperatures, though. You say, whoa, that's not so cold. 5 degrees for you in Halifax, 4 for Liverpool, and 6 in Yarmouth. Well, we have a storm that's going to move through and bring rain on the southern side of the warm front, and then north of that front, it's going to be snow. Everybody will start as snow. The mixing line will be from Moncton to Summerside up through PEI. Down there, you're going to transition to rain, and then you're going to transition back to snow again. So there's the rain, and then we have the Newfoundland, the Avalon will get a predominantly rain story out of this as well. Deb Mediachka is still traveling in Arizona. Here she is. See those snowflakes in our active weather theme there? Yeah, you're going to see more of them, especially out east. We'll talk about the next storm that's lined up. There's my Twitter address, Whittal TWN. Love to hear from you anytime on Twitter. You want to give me a weather observation? I'm all ears. Okay, let's take a look this morning. We are looking at some stagnant air in the south coastal regions of BC. That means some fog. Precipitation up toward the Rockies. That'll be upsloping, so it's all courtesy of this blue H coming down. Winds going this way around a high pressure area, and that means upsloping. That means snow. -17. Good morning, Grand Prairie. What are you waking up to, Edmonton? -17. And as you get out to the door, we're going to be seeing that snow in the higher elevations, but Calgary also, if you're, driving up to Red Deer, 2 to 5 centimeters, some blowing, some drifting. Whoa, speaking of blowing and drifting, yesterday it was atrocious right through the prairies. Yeah, if he's watching the show, he's from Regina. Yeah, he knows all too well. When you get these winds across the prairies where there's nothing to block them and wide open, the Trans-Canada, Swift Current to Regina, that area, it can be atrocious. It can be awful. So, we are going to be seeing those winds calm down today, but almost 80 blowing and drifting snow. That'll all move into southern parts of Manitoba today, but it will be a little calmer. 20 to 40 sustained this evening. A developing area of low pressure moves stateside. Here's your temperatures. Along with those strong winds, it was feeling like this overnight. You're going to be feeling like this when you get out the door today. If you're on your way to work in Regina, -37, dress for it again. Base temperature about -25. There's the developing low I'm talking about. There's the high. There's the snow. All right, so that pushes down toward the east, really, settles in for a visit. Again, another Arctic high, but it's going to be a bit better. This air mass is a bit more modified, so it's not quite as cold as the last one we saw. All you have to do is look at these temperatures. So -10 for Calgary, -4 by Monday. Even the -teens, that's better than base temperatures of -25s. Let's talk about the snow squalls. We have snow squall warnings from Brockville, Kingston. If you've been watching the show, you know that I've been talking about a band that's moving just south of the border now. It's heavy. Up through Wyerton, Parry Sound, you have some snow squall warnings in place, and now, we're still looking at another 15 to 30 centimeters of snow. We could see 5 to 15 for Barrie. That's no small number either. Wyerton, same deal. Some of those areas like Highway 21 that have been closed the last few days. If you're heading stateside, I-90 is having, lots of closures because of the squalls down through Fort Erie, south of Buffalo. So if you have any plans to do some shopping this weekend, you might look outside and say, oh, it's beautiful, it's sunny. Not necessarily, because you can drive right into a squall and it can be dangerous. So heads up. And then Eastern Ontario, same deal for you. These bands will be kind of meandering, and really the squalls continue right through the better part of Saturday, even into Sunday. We could see continuing squalls into cottage country. Let's talk about you in the East Coast. The clipper that moved through Ontario is going to move to the east yet. And when it does get there, 10 to 20 centimeters north of the warm front, Moncton, Summerside, that's the mixing line. So we are going to be seeing those changing conditions down to rain in Halifax. All good things must come to an end. How about Deb's trip in Arizona? Today on the radar, we were talking about the really dark blue, the reflectivity coming back from the radar as really strong bands of heavy snow, and that persisted for a lot of the day. All right, so here's the current pattern. It's no shock that the lake effect machine is going this week because frigid air is in place still. Even though it's a little bit better, it's still very cold air, and the lakes are wide open. By the way, we'll have a look at next week's pattern coming up as well, where we go from here, how long the cold will stick around. I can show you here too. Saturday, we are looking at temperatures a little better, except for you in Regina. You know, much as Saskatchewan, you're going to be into the minus teens. You can almost double that with your wind chills. But for the rest of the country, a little bit milder. But you can see the blue. That's a hint of milder air. So good news. High pressure in place this afternoon. Blowing snow, colder temperatures. This high comes down from the northwest, and we're going to see a little bit of upsloping. All that means is the winds around the high, which is clockwise wind flow, hits the mountains, condenses into clouds. We call it orographic uplift, and there you go. You get some snow. So uplifting. Upsloping, I should say, 10 to 15 centimeters, Grand Prairie, all the way down through Sunday morning, 5 to 10 in the darker blue shade. There's the high, there's the upsloping. The model's picking up on some of that precip. A developing low, though, skirts across the plains of the U.S. Another system moves onshore, but stays pretty well to the north by Tuesday. So a little look ahead. Let's show you in a second what Niagara Falls might get as far as snowfall, but a lot of snow squall days look just like that. And Dr. Doug Gillen just came over to me before I went on TV, and he said, you know, remind people that are heading maybe down to Florida, or maybe you're just heading south to do some skiing in New York if you live in Ontario. I-90 completely closed down in many areas on the way to Buffalo, south of Buffalo. We are expecting 60 to 90 centimeters. Over to Watertown, up to 100 centimeters with these squalls. This is why we have the southwest flow over Lake Erie, Lake Ontario. Winds are meandering, though. That just kind of means moving around. So cottage country, 15 to 30 in the lee of Lake Ontario, stateside as well. Like I said, almost 100 centimeters possible. Here's some of our wind gusts as of about 4 a.m. this morning. It's been windy. Chatham at 74. Toronto Island at 76, and this is kind of a tricky setup. It's a clipper that's moving through, but then the southwest wind kind of meanders. It moves to the west, it moves to the northwest. The winds kind of don't know what they're doing, and when you have that over the Great Lakes, you get snow that moves. So these bands will be moving through the day, but also looking at very cold temperatures in the aloft. So here we go, 10 to 20 centimeters possible through Friday night for you. This is the same clipper. Now, when the clipper moves through Atlantic Canada, though, it's going to wrap in much more milder air from the south. So we're going to see Halifax at 5 to 10 millimeters of rain. Does that sound familiar? A lot of tracks look like that this season. So rain, but up in the higher elevations of the western shores of Newfoundland, 10 to 20 centimeters on the way. Will be all over the radar. Coming up, snowfall in Florida. Yes, we'll show you how people reacted to this uninvited visitor. You don't want to miss it.